All right, what's going on?
It's feeling a little better, but still just kind of, I don't know what it is. It's weird.
Exhausted?
Just exhausted. I never sleep this long, but I went to bed at 11:15 last night. Usually it's like at least 1 is typically.
Yeah.
But I crashed at 11:15 and then I got up at 7:50 to get the kids to school, went back to bed and kind of was in and out, but really didn't get out of bed until about 12:15.
Oh, wow.
And still feel like I could go to sleep. So,
well, we'll get you tucked in shortly.
yeah, it's very strange. But no, like, again, none of the COVID-y stuff, like no sore throat, no running, stuffy nose.
Right. You think your allergies are hitting you so hard that you're just, I don't know.
But typically this allergies would be runny nose, stuffy nose.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even then, like no headache, just worn out, foggy, little bit of nauseousness. Like I got that little pit in the stomach.
A little pukey?
Little pukey.
All right. Well, I don't know. This is the second time that we've done this, actually. Do you remember the last time we did this? Where you dialed in from home because you weren't feeling that well?
Dan Mangan.
Yeah, Dan Mangan. I think that was the only time.
Is that the only other time? And then I think the very first, like our introduction, I think we did separately.
Oh,
like
yes,
the very,
we did.
very first,
You're
like
right.
This is what
You're absolutely right.
So anyways, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely, especially as we abandon all thought of a pandemic.
Pretty crazy because I was just on an airplane last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be completely fine if they kept it on the planes. In fact, I think they should keep it on the planes. That is a very, very small tube that you're in with a bunch of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know if the planes are they getting rid of the rules too?
As far as what I read today, the transport minister is asking them to keep it a mandate.
Right.
But I think they want to make it optional.
Yeah. Well, I will still wear my mask when I fly to Montreal this week. That's for goddamn sure.
Yeah. So I don't blame you for wanting to separate yourself a little bit from other people before.
I do appreciate that. Now let's talk about, you went to Vancouver for less than 48 hours, right?
Correct. Probably, yeah, right around 36, I think it would have been total.
For Jack White.
All for Jack, baby. Worth every hour of it.
Was it a venue you've been to before? Is it the P&E or?
Well, it's funny. I've been to the venue before, but not that venue. It's the building is built the exact same specs as the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton.
Oh, shit.
They're sister buildings. So even walking into it, it's just like walking into Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. Now, the one thing is Northlands went through a whole bunch of renovations, whereas the Pacific didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pacific still looks like Northlands did in the 80s. So it gave me some good vibes.
That's wild. That must have been a trip.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. So we briefly talked about the Jack show, and I don't think I'm going to catch him on this tour, and I haven't looked at the set list, but you and your son Ethan said something to me about the show that I could not believe. And that is that he stopped playing Hotel Yorba. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's we've seen shows here in Red Deer too that just aren't to the capacity levels that we kind of saw pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
and whether that's people are still a little trepidatious going out, or obviously money is definitely a bit of an issue as well. But for starters, there was probably about 6,000 people in a 15,000 seat venue.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I don't think that's any slight against Jack. I just think that's the state of things right now. Kind of half empty building, and the crowd was a little slow getting into it. And yeah, you got through about the second chorus of Hotel Yorba. And I don't quote me on it. I think this is what I heard him say, but I'm pretty sure it was something to the effect of, "Oh, I guess you guys don't like this song. We'll play something else then."
Yeah, that blows my mind, because that song is like, usually an instant crowd stomp along, right?
Especially live. It's a real stomper live.
Yeah. You'd think that's the escape shoot song if you're feeling your show is a little lackluster, just to break out in Hotel Yorba.
And it's, the crowd was definitely, we've talked about it a couple of times before with various artists on here. I think Rural Alberta Advantage really brought it up.
Yeah.
That it's a 50-50. You got to have the vibe coming from the crowd, the vibe from the band. Everybody feeds off of each other's energies. And it's definitely the crowd was not as into it as I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
But that didn't make the show suffer at all whatsoever. Again, I like arguably the last great American guitar hero.
Mm-hmm.
And he proved it every single song, every single second. Again, I don't know how many bands do you know that don't have a set list at all going into a night. Like not even like zero.
We were recently talking to someone about that though, right? Who was that?
We did, yes. Core Blunt.
Core Blunt, yes. Which after seeing him for the first time kind of blew my mind a little bit because it's not that I'm too familiar with Corb's music to begin with, or that genre of music specifically. I'm not saying that it all sounds the same, but unless you're, very, very trained, I feel like it would be, he's playing that song. Oh, yeah, I got it now.
Yeah.
But it was not like that at all. So that's an impressive feat, I think.
And especially with, and Corb had played, there was 7 shows in a row, I think, 7 nights in a row. You kind of got to do something, right? But yeah, so it was really neat to watch the dynamic with Jack and the band and how that whole thing worked. And basically, yeah, he just kind of noodle for a couple of seconds after a song had finished, and he'd hit whatever the intro was of the song, and boom, the band was right there. Or if it was the keys or the drums that kicked off the song, you'd see him walk over, tell him what's going on.
Right.
Keys would start, and boom, the rest of the band falls right in. But the one thing, like that's one thing for the musicians on stage. But my son, who's now been doing a lot of lights and whatnot at shows, like how, like that, everybody's got to be into that. Like, because each song is going to have different lighting effects. There's a video background that goes in.
Right.
So, I mean, that's I would think pretty taxing on everybody.
Just, it sounds like a lot more work for everyone. Everyone has to be that much more like on the ball and in tune with what's going on or what could happen.
Yeah. But anyways, it keeps it pretty fresh and different, for the most part, different set list every night.
Yeah. Did you get any merch?
I bought a poster. Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't think you showed me the poster. It was Vancouver specific.
Vancouver specific. So that's another thing that Jack does that is Pearl Jam. And there's a lot of bands that kind of do it, but specifically gets an artist, and I believe it's from the city that they're in, to design and develop the poster. So I actually ran into a buddy at the show that lives in Vancouver. I didn't quite understand the reference, but it's a crow sitting on top of a grenade, and the crow has the pin in its mouth.
Right.
So he didn't go to get into all the ins and the outs about it, but it is, I forget if it's mating season for the crows or hatching season. It's something going on with the crows right now, I guess, that's pretty prevalent in Van.
Wow.
So that's what that was all about.
I'd love to know the process between the artist and whoever on Jack White's team was dealing with that, like that commission.
Yeah.
And like where the ideas come from, who brings up the ideas, how many ideas, concepts are on the table before you actually narrow it down to the final product. And like, was it the artist that suggested the crow angle? It must have been.
You would think, again, if it's an artist from the area, is going to know what their area is all about. It's funny, the Los Angeles tour poster, which I think we talked about.
Yes, with the highways. Poster.
The highways, which, man, people are just, I've never seen people complain and be so upset about a poster for their show.
Yeah.
But you can go and look at all the posters that have been posted since then, and there's always somebody that brings up how much they hate the LA one. But
that's so weird.
Kind of quite dug it. But again, a great concept of, it's just a bunch of highways that kind of make up Jack's face.
Yeah.
And the ocean for his hair. It's I don't know, I quite enjoyed that one, but yeah, it's been fun following along his Instagram. He posts them all on there.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, I'm jealous that you got to see him. That's your third time now?
Third time, yeah. So you and I saw him together at X Fest.
In like what, 2014, 15?
Be around there, 15 probably,
maybe 16, yeah. Something
and
like
then
that.
and actually we didn't see him together at that, but we were both at that show at the Corral in Calgary.
Yeah, and that was the show where, did you have to lock up your phones in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
So the exact same thing happened because I got to the show and I thought, I'll just text Patrick when we're there.
Yeah.
And we can meet up. And right, my phone's locked up. And then same thing. I knew a friend that was going to that show, and I'm like, I'll just text him from the show. Oh shit, right, my phone's in a bag now.
And it was the same company?
Exact same process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I do love, we've been seeing so many shows at Bose lately, and I've always appreciated the photog rule, where you're allowed up there 3 songs, get your pictures done, get the hell out, and let the people enjoy the show, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily follow that rule on my own with just my phone at a show at Bose, but I make damn sure to get at least a few pictures from at least one of the songs. And,
and you kind of have a little bit of that self-awareness to not be bringing the phone out a whole bunch. And I do the exact same thing. I try to get a little bit of footage from one song, put it away. But the flip side of that is Jack's whole purpose of doing that is so that everybody is into the show and focused on the exact same thing.
Yeah.
and there wasn't quite the crowd involvement early on.
Maybe they should have had their phones after all.
I guess they should have had their phones.
I've realized something about myself, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 months, is that when we have a show at Bose, I am atrocious at responding to texts or communicating. Like, I'm sure you've noticed a couple times when I've beaten you to Bose before a show and you'll text me like, oh, what's the situation? How much time do I have? Blah, blah, blah. I just I don't know what it is. When I'm watching a band on stage, I'm very self-conscious about having my phone out unless I'm taking a few pictures. Other than that, right. I don't want them looking at me with a big, bright screen glare in my face, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be where I'll get to Bose. Maybe my girlfriend will get lucky if I tell her that I arrived safely. And then, 3, 4 hours later, I'm like, fuck, I've not looked at my texts or responded to anything. And it's all right. It's a nice time to shut off when you're enjoying some live music.
That's what you're supposed to. It is an escape, and 100% a distraction. And you're right. I 100% would feel guilty if I'm looking down at my phone and checking baseball scores and look up and see that the band is seeing me on my phone.
Yeah.
It's pretty disrespectful.
Yeah, totally. And you could walk away and check your phone in some dark private corner, but then you're missing the show.
Exactly.
And then the set ends and you end up talking to 5, 6, 7 different people in between sets. Anyways, it is what it is. Well, did I tell you? So I'm going to Montreal tomorrow or Thursday morning.
I was just going to say, before you get into the Montreal stuff, have you been to Vancouver? When was the last time you were in Van?
3 years? No, 2 years ago, 2 summers ago.
And you had a good time?
Oh yeah, I love Vancouver. I used to go out there every two or three weekends when I first moved here.
It's so weird because I wanted to ask you what else you have planned for Montreal, but we went to Van and we had a good time. We went down to White Rock and through Stanley Park and went to some breweries and that was all cool. But I think of a city like Seattle and I can think of 5 things I'd want to go and check out and do in Seattle right off the top of my head. Toronto, I can think of 10 things. In Montreal, I can think of, but I have a hard time thinking, what if I went back to Vancouver, what would I do?
Food.
Food for sure. Food and breweries.
Yeah. Music if you can. And it has gotten much harder over the years. Not that I've been to any shows in Vancouver in the last 6 or 7 years, but I used to go to a lot, and they were in very, oftentimes discreet places, DIY shows. And we've talked to a few guests on the podcast in the last year and a half that have, said that the act of gentrification and whatever weird bylaws they have going down there have effectively shut down a lot of those places, which is very sad. But Vancouver is that's a major hub for all sorts of musicians and creatives, right?
Yeah, and I think the one thing that would draw me back, we did walk down Granville, so went past the Commodore.
Yeah.
There's no shows on, so just kind of got to walk out. So it would be nice to see that building in the Orpheum. I think it's the Orpheum that's right beside it. The two are there's 2 pretty big.
I think so. Yeah.
Venues side by side there.
Yeah. I've never been into the Commodore, but I sat outside of it for, honestly, I think it was a sold out Dead Weather show. Speaking of Jack, my buddy and I we were in Vancouver for a few nights, couldn't get tickets to the show, just went and sat outside and listened for a bit. It was pretty
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay, so I know the big reason why you're going to Montreal. Have you been to Montreal? Have you got a ton of experience there?
I've never been to Montreal as an adult, but been there a few times as a kid and a teenager. Do a big Quebec trip, and usually in grade 8 and in a lot of elementary schools. So you do Montreal then, and then my family and I we would often drive out to PEI every 3 or 4 years, I think.
Oh wow!
So we would usually hang out in Montreal. I've been there a few times, but never as an adult who can fully take advantage of the scene. We've talked to a ton of artists who either live in Montreal or have spent a lot of time in their careers in Montreal. And I've, picked the brains of a few of them over the last year and a half with suggestions and places that we should probably hit up. So we're going to hit up some of those, but I did find a show for Friday night.
Yes. Okay. What did you find?
Did I tell you about it?
I think you might have posted something. I want to say
right.
the OBGMs
right? And NOBRO.
And NOBRO, that's right. Yes.
which is going to be pretty wild because it's at this Fouffon Electrique. I think it stands for the Electric Buttocks. It's like this old club. I think it used to be a disco club back in the 70s. I think it's been around since the 60s. But yeah, a hometown NOBRO show.
I was just gonna say, I thought Montreal was NOBRO's hometown. That's sweet.
Which is so cool because we've seen NOBRO in Red Deer at Bose, opening for Pup, right? And that was like
Correct.
I actually remember feeling like an idiot because I did zero research on NOBRO before the show, and then they hopped up on stage, and I was like, wow, I did not expect that because I had no expectations.
Yeah.
So that was an important lesson on doing your research for all of the opening acts,
and honestly, never missing the opening act because you never quite honestly know what you're gonna get.
But then I saw NOBRO on my birthday in 2019, so this would have been one of the first or last shows before the pandemic. They opened for Alexis on Fire, so saw them down in Calgary. So it's going to be cool seeing NOBRO at Bose, and then seeing them at the Dumpy Saddle Dome in Calgary. And now going right back into their home territory in Montreal. I'm really, really excited about it.
And do you know how big the venue is?
I looked up the capacity. I couldn't figure it out. But I would say that it's probably like a Sneaky D's kind of situation. Maybe not Sneaky D. I don't know. I'm not sure. It looks like a lot of fun, though. I will report back.
I cannot wait to hear how that goes. So that's the Friday night you're in Montreal?
Well, yeah. So Thursday night we're all booked up. Thursday night we land in on Thursday afternoon. Go check out our Airbnb, and then we have dinner reservations at there's a restaurant. There's two restaurants. It's Joe Beef and Liverpool House. They're like sister brother restaurants. We couldn't get a reservation for Joe Beef. At certain times it's considered the best restaurant in the country. Really, really cool vibe in there, from what I understand. So we're going to go to the sister restaurant instead, enjoy that, have a really nice meal, a welcome to Montreal, and then Friday you go to the track for a few hours, and then Friday night we'll go to that show.
Okay, so the big reason you're going is a little F1 action.
Yeah, Formula One, baby. First time in Canada since 2019.
And so now you mentioned you go to the track for a bit on Friday. From a fan's perspective, like, can you get right down in? Like, is there kind of some behind the scenes stuff, behind the scenes tours that you can do?
Not tours. Unfortunately, we're missing. They actually open the track to the public on Thursday morning from 9 till noon. So you can actually, from what I understand, walk the track and like check out the pit lane. Beyond that, I think it's for like the they call them Paddock Club passes. It's like basically like the VIP sections that you spend, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 grand on for a weekend. But yeah, there's all sorts of activities. It's on the island in Montreal, this track. And then it's not just Formula One racing, right? They have 3 other series that they run. It's not like the Junior F2, F3, F4, whatever. It's actually, there's a Nissan Sentra series, which to the best of my knowledge is just a bunch of French-Canadian dudes are in a league where they race the exact same kitted Nissan Sentra. You can buy it for like $40,000.
Huh. And they're just like regular guys, belong to a club.
I mean, they have money. They have money.
Oh, of course, obviously.
That's why. And then there's a Ferrari Series, which is going to be a Ferrari race, and I believe that is the best example of like the older rich dudes that just want to drive fast cars, and I think they mostly suck, but we're gonna find out about that. And then there's it's called the F1600 Series, and those are like old school open wheel, almost like smaller versions of F1 cars. I just got a text. I just got a message. We'll see if our guest is going to hop on.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I don't know where this communication went wrong, but we're going to figure it out. So I'm very excited. It's going to be jam-packed. Hopefully we don't get too much rain, but we went and we bought some decent-looking ponchos on Amazon and some seat cushions.
All right, you got to have the seat cushions. And how long are you there for?
Well, I predict Friday will be on the grounds for 4 or 5 hours, and then probably 7 or 8 on Saturday or Sunday, maybe. Depends.
Like 7 or 8 hours per day.
Yeah.
Both days.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think they open things up at like 8 or 9, and then it's closed up at 7:30. It's kind of like a music festival, man.
I was gonna say, is there any other sporting event that you would be there for that length of time?
Probably not. I mean, you could go watch, what, 8 baseball games in 3 days, right?
Sometimes it feels like those baseball games are that long. What about like the Masters? How long do those?
Oh,
like, you
yeah,
can go
that's a
and
great,
watch?
this is probably a great comparison, actually, is
Probably
a,
like similar to that.
yeah, like a big golf tournament. Because at those, you could watch golf from what, like Tuesday to Sunday? Wednesday to
Yeah,
Sunday?
yeah,
Have
yeah.
you ever been to a golf tournament like that before?
Never,
No?
never.
Any interest?
I think it's one of those things where they say, well, if you're, I've had friends that have been at Augusta and have talked about how amazing of an experience it is.
Yeah.
So I don't, to get the kick in the ass to actually go and do it, I'm like, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that listen to me going to baseball games for 3 out of 3 nights and go,
Yeah.
Again, it's different. If when you're there, it's so different.
My good friend and the Road the Stage listener, Stuart, has been to Augusta. He went a few years ago. I think he's just been the one time. And it sounds like, I mean, if you're a golf fan, obviously, it's like the Mecca.
Yeah.
One of the Meccas, I guess. But it does sound like a bit of a time warp in that your attendants or your service staff are not white.
Oh,
Yes. I believe
really?
that is, yes. I mean, that tournament's been around for a long time, right?
Sure.
So long that it might appear that there are certain outdated traditions that are still there on the surface level. You know what I mean?
Oh, though, how?
I don't know, man. It's the deep south, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Anyways, I am so glad we don't really have to deal with that all too much. Not to that extent, anyways. In this business that we're working in. So
finish.
I have confirmation that we are not going to be chatting with our guest tonight.
Okay.
So you can go back to sleep.
I don't know if this will work very well, but
Holy fuck!
See,
oh, are those? Oh my god! Did you say like play dead and then you hopped on the call and he's just that trained that well? He's that obedient?
I guess I'm just pretty good at lulling people and animals to sleep.
Well, this is kind of this is suiting because this happens to us all the time. A lot of people may not realize that.
It's, there's a lot of things going on. People's schedules are busy.
Yeah, it happens. I do understand where the communication lies, though. It is my fault.
Way to go, Patrick.
I had made mention that you would probably be dialing in instead of actually in the studio, and I believe that was taken as you're just not going to join, and we're not going to do the interview if you're not going to join. So, anyways, my bad.
Oh.
My bad.
Okay.
But we'll touch base with our guest, who you listened to his record, right?
I sure did, and absolutely loved it. I had so many questions. We'll touch on base on it later. But
isn't it incredible?
It's incredible. And it's funny, he had, and I'm curious to know your opinion, and we can bring it up with him later too. Somebody had asked him in one of the interviews I'd read about if he could recommend just one song off of that album.
Yeah.
For somebody to listen to check it out. What song would that be? So
Rock and Roll Kind
on the spot. Is that yours as well?
Oh, no, mine actually is either World Awake or The Wild Card.
Okay, yeah, The Wild Card definitely.
Yeah.
I like Hang at My House was just such a chill.
It's a really cool song. Really cool song.
Anyways, so there's 3 different takes on 3 different. It's an amazing album.
This is good. We're getting the standing, like the pleasantries, the fuck, what do you call it? The compliments out of the way just between us. Maybe that's what we should start doing.
Without him, we'll railroad him when he gets on. But
so, what you guys think of my album? Well, you'll have to listen to the intro. All right. Well, I don't know. What are you going to do now?
Well, I'll go wake my dog up for starters. And I think I'm probably going to go back to bed. There's a ball game on, so that'll help me chill.
Fall asleep. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. All right. Well.
And what are you going to do now?
I don't know, man. I
take cover from all the rain.
Okay. So I had made a comment. Okay. So I haven't told you this yet, but when we were booking this interview, that has not happened yet. A comment was made about, oh, I'll wait to hit the bong until after the interview then. And I was like, well, fuck. Hit it on the interview if you want. I'll hit one with you. Just as, like, I didn't know if it was a joke or not.
Yeah. So
I do have it prepared just in case.
this is like, how many times is this happening where we had the hat to show Corb and then that interview didn't happen?
Yeah, you're right. I got to stop bringing props to these podcast interviews.
That's the problem. There it is right there. Stop bringing props.
So I was thinking about it, and I've never indulged for any of our interviews. Well, that's not true. There's one that hasn't come out. That is a good example why I shouldn't indulge for an interview. But I was thinking about it over the last few days, and I was talking to Kayla about it. I was like, fuck, like I don't know if he was joking. And now I put myself in a position where I will feel bad. I'll feel guilty if I'm not prepared for it.
Well, 100% you got to be prepared.
So I'll still be prepared whenever we do the interview.
I'll just leave it there. I'm sure it'll get put to good use.
Shout out to our friend Sawback Brewing Co. Bo's Bar and Stage.
Go Services Inc. I ran into Dustin at Go Services Inc. He was at a charity run this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a great guy to talk to and such a big music fan.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So big shout out there to Go Services.
I actually met Nate for the first time the other night at Boy Golden and the Bobby Tenderloin universe. Yeah.
Yeah,
first time. I can't believe it.
We had talked about him two-stepping, and at Boy Golden, it came pretty close to like, I forget what the context was of it, but we had talked about him two-stepping, and somebody couldn't believe that he two-stepped. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's a small town Alberta kid. I'm pretty sure he can two-step, even though it doesn't seem like he'd be the two-stepping kind. And somebody came up and grabbed him to go and dance, and I thought, we're about to see it.
And it didn't happen.
And then it didn't happen.
Oh, well, we'll get him to doing it one time for sure. Yes, and then shout out to our lovely producers, Ryan and Ryley. Ryan's about to take off on a jet plane for a big show.
He's got a crazy couple of days, and I heard from a little birdie that he's got a big Canada Day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Big Canada Day, something or another.
That's a big tease to get somebody to hang on for the next episode.
All right, well, with that being said, what days do we usually release our podcasts?
Well, it's in the very near future, as a matter of fact, as we do record this in the evening of the day before.
Sometimes.
Which is
Wednesday.
The Road the Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Ryley Surian at the Communal Creative Studios in Red Deer, Alberta. In partnership with Go Services Inc., Sawback Brewing Co., Tourism Red Deer, and Bo's Bar and Stage.